Welcome to another deep dive. I'm your host, and I'm joined, as always, by our resident expert.
Hey everyone. I am really excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. So today we are diving into a really fascinating stack of research notes that a listener sent in. It's this deep analysis of an ancient text, specifically the English Standard Version of Psalm 78.
Oh yeah, which is such a rich text.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, usually when we talk about ancient history, we sort of treat it like a museum. We put the events behind glass, we look at them, and we just move on.
Right. But this text actually treats history as a matter of literal survival.
Okay, how so?
Well, this specific psalm is labeled a maskil of Asaph. And a maskil is essentially a didactic or instructional poem designed to make you wise. And Asaph was a prominent seer and chief musician.
Oh.
So this isn't just a song, it's an alarm bell. It's a desperate plea to the coming generation to remember their history so they don't become, a stubbornly rebellious society. It really highlights how deeply dangerous cultural amnesia is.
Okay, let's unpack this because the stakes here are so much higher than just passing down a quaint family cautionary tale. The listener's notes point out a very specific catastrophic failure involving the Ephraimites.
Yeah, that part is wild.
Right. The text says they were fully armed with bows, yet they turned back and ran on the day of battle. And why? Because they forgot the miracles in Egypt.
Exactly. They completely forgot the fields of Zoan.
Or the fields of Zoe.
Yeah, which was this massive, intimidating center of Egyptian power. They forgot how the sea was divided for them and how they were guided by a cloud in the day and fire at night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, look at the direct causality established there. The Ephraimites didn't lose the battle because they lacked weapons or physical strength. They lost their nerve because they lost their memory.
That is a brilliant psychological insight.
It really is. I mean, when you don't remember the monumental trials you've already survived, you have zero foundation to stand on when the next conflict begins.
It makes perfect sense. It's like a highly trained special forces unit dropping their weapons the second the first bullet flies.
Right.
Not because their guns jammed, but because they completely lost their psychological anchor.
Yes.
And because they lost that anchor, the text shows them immediately testing their boundaries. They're out in a barren desert, and they get incredibly sarcastic. Basically asking, what, is God going to cater a banquet out here in the wilderness?
The entitlement is just profound. They demand the specific food they crave. They're literally testing God in their hearts. And the response is overwhelming.
Oh, yeah, the sky opens up.
Right. It rains down manna, which the poem calls the bread of the angels, along with meat raining down like dust.
But there's a brutal consequence to that craving.
Yeah.
The text paints this terrifying image. Before they had even satisfied their craving, while the food was literally still in their mouths, divine wrath strikes down their strongest young men.
Yeah, it's immediate.
So panic sets in, right? And the people immediately pivot to offering these fake, flattering apologies. They lie to him with their tongues just to save their own skin, which I genuinely don't understand this part.
What do you mean?
Well, if I know someone is giving me a hollow, fake apology, it makes me infinitely more angry. Why doesn't all-powerful deity just let them off the hook for lying to his face?
Well, because the text is exposing a massive tension here between ultimate divine power and a deep compassion for human fragility.
Okay.
The narrative explicitly states their hearts were not steadfast, but God restrains his anger, not because their apologies are convincing, but because, as the text says, he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passes and comes not again.
A wind that passes. Wow.
Right. He sees completely through the fake apology, but his compassion overrides his wrath purely because of their utter fragility.
So he accepts that humans are basically a passing breeze. But that cycle of rebellion, consequence, and hollow apology, it can't just loop endlessly. Eventually, the system has to break.
Right, and idolatry eventually breaks the system. Their constant turning to other idols pushes the narrative to a point of no return, forcing a hard reset.
A hard reset.
Yeah, God abandons his dwelling at Shiloh, which was essentially the original religious capital before Jerusalem existed, and he completely rejects that heavily armed, rebellious tribe of Ephraim.
And instead, he pivots entirely. He chooses the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, and he chooses David. I love the detail in the notes here. He takes David directly from following the nursing ewes.
The underlying mechanics of leadership completely change here. Think about it. A traditional warrior king demands absolute obedience and strikes down rebels. But a shepherd...
A shepherd expects sheep to be dumb.
Exactly. To wander off and to need patient, constant corralling. By changing the leadership model from a warrior to a literal shepherd, someone who can guide the nation with an upright heart, God fundamentally changes how human fragility is managed.
It's the ultimate course correction. And it perfectly ties back to modern human behavior. We constantly face new crises and immediately forget the fields of zone in our own lives, the massive obstacles we've already overcome.
We really do.
Studying our own history is the only way to avoid wandering into the wilderness of our ancestors' mistakes.
The text leaves us with a jarring image just before that leadership shift to David, though. It describes God waking up as from sleep, like a strong man shouting because of wine.
Wow, that is an intense, almost uncomfortable metaphor.
It suggests a sudden, overwhelming, and unstoppable shift in reality. And it leaves us with an incredibly important question to mull over today.
Which is,
In our own lives and organizations, do we stubbornly cling to our cycles of amnesia and rebellion until we force a catastrophic wake-up call? Or can we learn from the past before we force a total upheaval in our own leadership and direction?
man, that is definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and thank you all for listening.